Whereas the mode of goodness is characterized by prescribed and regulated action, that done without attachment. The mode of passion is characterized by action which is steered by false ego towards the pursuance of sense gratificatory desires. And mode of ignorance is completely in defiance with the scriptural injunctions, without consideration of any form of sensitivity, and therefore involving violence and distress for everyone involved, because it is based on illusion, the primary characteristic of mode of ignorance. So if we want to coin one word for each, so the one chosen word will be regulation, ego drive, and illusory or whimsical. Is it not? That is the differentiating factor between actions in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Or we can say a more appropriate word for goodness will be the Shastric prescription, because the prescription will anyways dictate regulation. Is it not? But the Shastras are prescribing. So goodness means Shastric prescription, because that will anyways ensure regulation. At least prescription has a regulation. So ego drive and illusion. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that the prescription of actions in the mode of goodness is given according to one's varna and ashrama. So now we know that varnashrama is a staircase towards transcendence. That aspect is understood and known. And therefore, varnashrama is the staircase for transcending or evolving to the level of unalloyed devotional service. Varnashrama is a staircase. So that fact is known. Now the interesting thing which comes here is that because Varnashrama is a staircase towards Shuddha Bhakti or unalloyed devotional service, therefore you will see Varnashrama very interestingly, because it is a staircase, you see it has a role uh, at different stages of one's life. So in fact, Varnashrama is needed all through. It has a role at different stages of one's life. It has a role all through for the living entity. And that is why Varnashrama is one such system which has been heavily recommended by the Supreme Lord himself. And the Vedic culture, the foundation, backbone and pillar of Vedic culture stands on Varnashrama. Because it has a role at every stage of a person's evolution. Now, let's see. So, a person who is not at the level of devotional service, he has not accepted dependence and subservience or Sharnagati of the Supreme Lord completely. He is evaluating, he is thinking about it. He is not committed towards Sharnagati. For such a person, Varnashrama will ensure morality and order. Varnashrama, for such kind of people, Varnashrama will ensure morality and order. Not only morality and order, Varnashrama for such kind of people or for such section of society, Varnashrama will ensure synergy. And therefore, most optimized performance, materially speaking. Now, this is purely from a material point of view, is it not? Most optimized performance and synergy. That is what Varnashrama will ensure. So, therefore, so at this stage, the emphasis will be okay, map the psychophysical tendencies to the needs and roles in the society. And when everybody is there in their proper mapping, their contribution is going to be the maximum. And in that way, the synergy is going to be the maximum. So that is the best algorithm for life. So that's the interesting point which we understand. But that's not the be all and end all of Varnashram Dharma. That is the contribution only at that particular stage. But Varnashrama acts on a higher stage also. So on a higher stage, you see, the point is that now for practicing devotees and or practicing sadhakas, their Varnashrama has a great role to play. So for practicing sadhakas, now I say, why should a sadhaka be needing Varnashrama? Varnashrama has a great role to play for a practicing sadhaka. Because it is Varnashrama Dharma which, in a very systematized institutional manner, stabilizes or makes a sadhaka steady. And not just steadily situated, but steadily progressing towards Krishna. Therefore, it is the Varnashrama Dharma or the institution of Varnashrama which ensures the sadhaka steadily gets purified. It is Varnashrama which ensures purification and steady progress. Why and how? That is something to be understood. Why and how? That is something to be understood. So, now this is quite interesting because you see, the point is that you see material world dealings or activity or any motion in this material world is not smooth. No, material roadways are never smooth roadways. Material roadways are always crooked, bumpy, shaky, and we can go on keep going on giving adjectives. Is it not? Jerky, you know. Material roadways are always miserable like that. Is it not? It doesn't matter for what purpose those roadways are used. That's why the example of roadways is appropriate. A road doesn't matter for what purpose is used. No, the condition of the road has to be faced by anyone and everyone. Now the road can be used for any purpose. Is it not? The road can be No, the road can be used for taking Rath Yatra procession of the Lord. Is it not? The road can be used for running away after doing some thievery or something also. You know? So anybody who's using the road for whatever purpose, transcendental or sinful, he has to experience the same condition. Is it not? The jerky, the wishy-washy experience. Similarly, material world is the same. So anything done in this material world has to come with a great amount of turmoil and sweat and toil. It doesn't come easily. Doesn't come easily. So materialists, they are successful, but they are not successful easily. Nobody is successful easily. Is anyone? No one. Great amount of sweat and toil, anxiety, restlessness, everything one has to tolerate. Is it not? This is for those who do become successful, who happen to become successful. So sweat and toil and pain is for everyone, but some become successful, some do not. That is their karma. That is all fine. But the point is the roadway is the same. Like that. And similarly, if one wants to serve Krishna, there also sweat and toil has to be faced. But that is the nature of this world. सड़क ही टूटा फूटा है, अब क्या करेंगे? So because the material affairs are always going to be crunchy, therefore you will see that okay, any outside business setup very crunchy. But in devotee setup also, when the setup is big, when management involved, organization involved, sometimes crunchy flavors come in picture. So one may say, oh, why is it happening in devotee setup? It is not happening just in devotee setup. That is the nature of this world. The tools and apparatus what we are using, that is faulty. So one has to have that maturity to understand that all this clumsiness and all these crunchy aspects are there because it is material world. Had this organization or being done in the spiritual world, it would have been very smooth. But because this is material world, even with sincere devotees, it is going to happen like that. Therefore, don't mind it too much. Just move on. So the material road is crunchy. And now because it is crunchy, actually, it the best strategy is do the basic minimum. And focus focus the major part of energy towards the transcendence. So that is why Varnashram is very helpful for a sadhaka. So what does it mean basic minimum? It means what? That okay, unless it is a dire emergency, one can interact with the material energy on grounds where he is strong. And therefore with minimum expense of energy, mental energy, one will be able to drive it. Relatively speaking, minimum expense of mental energy. One will be able to drive it. And then the remaining part of energy focus on just Krishna Katha. Vaishnava Seva, Krishna Katha, is it more direct aspects of devotional service or what we call as sadhana or it includes Vaishnava Seva also. Deity Seva, Vaishnava Seva. More direct aspects of devotional service. So that is the point, because if one without any case of emergency or instruction or something like that, if emergency is not there, any abrupt instruction will not come. So if one jumps onto areas where he is weak, he'll have to struggle a lot, like that. Like we have seen, even if the setup consists of say 10 devotees, the community setup consists of 10 devotees, maybe Seva Kunj setup or some yoga voice, some setup. Even it is 10 devotees, if the person in charge is not having that element of management in him, in his psyche installed, just to run that 10 devotee setup, run means what? Run means 3 times prasad, morning program, some preaching, that's the meaning of run, everyday cleaning, what else. Just to do that, this devotee in charge maybe talking and foaming in the mouth. We have seen some devotees. They were made in charge, and he is doing every day night midnight, and somehow or the other finishing round, no time for sadhana and all that. What is he doing? No, Mr. Bhai, what are you doing? किया क्या मतलब ना? Mr. Okay, morning program किया ना, prasad किया ना, cleaning किया. So, but that only consuming all the energy, like that. But actually, that is a survival, is it not? After that, okay, after that, one may say that, okay, kya kiya? Is it not? How many books distributed? How many preaching programs? How many Rath Yatras conducted? How many whatever? How many one-time programs? How many festivals? So that's over and above that. But basic minimum. So sometimes the basic minimum also becomes very difficult. So what is the problem? That only means that is not the element of the devotee. So to do a basic thing, he has to struggle a lot. Whereas if we put the right person, and he is playing harmonium every day night. He is doing Shayan Kirtan every day night. It is peaceful. Why? Because he has that element. Very easily he is able to, without getting crushed by that load of it, he is able to channelize it. Like in irrigation dam. Is it not? Any Shiva comes, he doesn't become bogged down. Shiva आ गया ना, है ना? आ गया है ना? ठीक है, ये डोर बंद है, वो डोर खोल दो, है ना? इधर से नहीं हो रहा है, उधर से कर दो, बस खत्म. And he is doing his sadhana very nicely, So you can quickly. Other person for 2 hours is just walk down, कैसे होगा, डॉग से आ गया अभी, किसको बोले हैं he's just looking at everybody's face and it is appearing like, oh, इसको कैसे बोल सकते हैं प्रभु को, है ना? So somehow it develops great courage to go to one person and he says, Prabhu ji, and he says, क्या है, sorry, Prabhu ji, like that. So one here and there and it will be very difficult for him to handle, is it not? And suppose that person says कि प्रभु जी आप मेरे पास ही क्यों आते हैं, और भी तो बोलते हैं जाओ उधर जाओ उधर जाओ, है ना? बस वहीं पे he becomes numb and paralyzed. So you see the point. So that's why Varnashrama is very helpful for a sadhaka. So Varnashrama is very helpful for a sadhaka. Like that. Now this is for a practicing sadhaka, for to ensure. So Varnashrama will ensure therefore steady purification of heart, because one will be able to do it responsibly. It will give a sense of accomplishment to a devotee also. It will give a sense of worth to a devotee also. First of all, practicing devotional service is only challenging. Then you are practicing on a ground where you don't know. Even more challenging. Like that. So psychophysical basically means what one has practiced for so long. Is it? That's the point. Suppose one has practiced hockey, playing hockey. He goes to Olympics and starts playing golf, or the team puts him in playing golf, poor fellow will be miserable, is it not? It's not a speed. So he will make a joke out of himself, is it not? So okay, if nobody is there, then fine, like Bhishma Dev, we want to, we are ready to, be slaughtered and butchered, no problem, Krishna service, somebody has to sacrifice and become Shahid also, So fine, nobody there, so that is fine, but those emergencies are not very common, that is the point. So this is something which has to be understood. So it gives a sense of worth, it gives some confidence to a person because he can be in an area which he can do something about, and it will be easier for him to stay on. That's the point. So it ensures steadiness, it ensures confidence, it ensures boost up, encouragement, and so on. Now the same thing happens. Now even if now one is more advanced in Krishna consciousness and he is ready to do anything and everything, then we saw that okay, Varnashrama is not just a staircase, but Varnashrama has another utility. In fact, Varnashrama is the you can say the only harmless way, or you can say the least harmful way of engaging in the material affairs or dealing with the world. So if we do not act on Varnashrama trajectories, then no dealing with the material world will be possible. If you want to deal with material world, what is the way to deal? Install Varnashram. That's the way to deal. If you don't install Varnashram, it is going to be much more troublesome. Is it not? Because dealing with the world will involve all kinds of roles. A visionary role, an organization role, a little more shrewd dealings role, is it not? And routine tasks. Everything is going to be there in any undertaking. And preaching is all about dealing with the material world. Is it not? Because preaching means making bridges from material to spiritual. So Varnashrama is not just a staircase in that way. Varnashrama is the language of the material world in that sense. So if you want to deal with the material world, install the language of the material world. Now, and that is Varnashrama. So this is quite, so this is interesting and this is amazing, like that. And that is why the aspect of prescription is very important. How the Shastras are prescribing something to be done. Something to be done. So many times, even in our undertaking of various services or the mission, many times we, even devotees, managers, they try to take shortcuts to just get the things done. So the thing is done, the person who did the thing, he gets burnt out. Because it is not properly managed. If anything has to be done, the Varnashram has to be installed. That means people have to be put into the right trajectories, like that. That means you will need a little more resources, is it not? That's the point. And you can replicate those resources at multiple places, is it not? Like that. But sometimes, for quick and cheap results, a leader or manager may get coaxed towards making everybody do everything, or one person do everything. He said, this is okay, here everything you will do. So poor fellow gets slaughtered. Like that. We have seen. Our Albert Road, there are certain departments, anybody you put, he gets slaughtered. The least the least damaging thing which would happen is that he would leave the Calcutta and go to some other ISKCON temple. That's the least thing what may happen. But that means what would generally happen is that they would leave the ashram only. And the worst thing what may happen is that they would so fried out they leave devotion service or become Dhila in devotional service. Like that. So What is the problem? The problem of one person, everything. How is it possible? Is it not? One person, everything. How is it possible? So one person, everything. How is it possible? So that is why you see. That is why mode of goodness will always involve. See, mode of goodness means what? Mode of goodness is stabilizing as well as nourishing. That's the characteristic of mode of goodness. It stabilizes, it nourishes. Is it not? Mode of passion is the way to, if you say that, okay, enough of, the setup, how this setup will be, dismantled. Oh, introduce passion in it. Everything will crumble, like that. Passion brings about crumbling, is it not? And ignorance locks a living entity into a degraded, infinite degraded, degrading fall. Is it not? That's what happens. So, but it is goodness which is stabilizing and nourishing in any setup. So these two aspects are very prominent. That is, one is prescribed, second is regulated. Nothing should be done without limits. There is no unlimited or regulated. So if it is not regulated, it is not goodness. One may say, no, Prabhuji, we are only serving Krishna. No, we are not non-devotees. We are devotees. We are only serving Krishna. So what do you mean regulated, non-regulated? Whether we are devotees or we are pure devotees, doesn't matter. The prescription is given as regulation. Regulation means everything within constraint. Time constraint, resource constraint, regulated. That's the meaning of regulation. Not that anything, anytime, all time, every time. Anything, every time, all time is not the point. Regulation is important. So therefore, you see, when it comes to material endeavors, we can say, okay, material world, do the minimum, regulation. But spiritual service is also regulation. Yes, spiritual service is also regulation. Because you see, one aspect of Varnashrama is, Varnashrama. So now, you see, these are two facets of the same Varnashrama dharma. One facet is there is different types of people, how to organize them, psychophysical and all that. That is all fine. But now this is like, inter level. At the intra level, also Varnashram can act. Because every person is like a complete unit. He has many things inside him. He is not just mode of goodness or not just mode of passion. He has a full organization within him also. Every person is like that. So, there is a full universe within a person. The person has various facets, he has various flavors and all that. So, how should the person be dovetailed? How should the person be dovetailed? Now, the point comes here is that how should the person be dovetailed? So, here, therefore, the point comes is that, okay, then actually the person should be holistically encouraged. Holistically encouraged. There has to be various components in a person's life. There has to be various components in a person's life, and that needs to be there to stabilize it. Therefore, regulation is important. So that is why we say, okay, whatever kind of seva, whether the seva is manager seva or the seva is dealing with money and resources and all that,